Okay, so we're diving into education in India this time specifically, all the buzz around EdTech.
Mhm.
And you sent over this YouTube interview with Unacademy founders Gaurav Munjal and Roman Saini.
Right. It's a really insightful
It's
conversation.
like, wow, front row seats to this whole movement, you know?
Totally. And what's fascinating is how they represent this big shift, right? I mean, we're moving away from the traditional image of education in India, like
Yeah.
packed classrooms, those intense coaching centers and coda. And it's this whole new world of online learning now.
Yeah. And speaking of which, what really struck me was this whole education celebrity thing. Like, when did teachers become cool and internet famous?
Right.
Especially Roman Saini.
Yeah, and Gaurav even mentions, his own early teaching videos, even though they were very technical, hardcore content,
Yeah.
they got way fewer views than Roman's.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. It really makes you think about how we learn best, right? Like, do we connect more with a personality?
It's that human element, right?
Yeah.
Even in the digital space.
Yeah. But, Gaurav brought up a good point, too, about how some educators rely too much on drama and, like, emotional appeals to grab students' attention. And he's concerned it's distracting from actual learning. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because on one hand, you want to make learning engaging, especially online where it's easy to get distracted.
Right.
But then are we creating a generation of students who are like more into entertainment than knowledge itself? It's a tough balance.
Definitely. And this ties into their point about the motivation problem with online learning because, you can create the most amazing online courses, but how do you keep students engaged outside a traditional classroom?
It's true. Even in Kota, with all those coaching centers, they were saying internet cafes and gaming are everywhere. It's not like students are immune to distraction just by being there.
Right.
It's everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
even Roman, who seems like the epitome of self-discipline, he admitted that he used to, like, cry himself to sleep sometimes because of the pressure.
Wow. It's a good reminder that, like, everyone struggles, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Even the most successful people.
Yeah.
And that having a good support system, whether it's friends, family, mentors,
Yeah, it's crucial.
is so important. But going back to Coda, it sounds like online learning is really changing the game for these intense coaching centers.
Absolutely. Gaurav even said, like, it might be healthier if fewer students felt they had to go to Kota.
Wow. That's a big statement coming from someone running an EdTech company.
Right.
It makes you wonder about the cost of these hyper-competitive environments, right?
Yeah.
And with platforms like Unacademy, students have so many more choices now. It's not just where to learn, but how and who they want to learn from.
Exactly. And that changes everything about what it means to be a teacher in this new world.
Right, because it's not just about standing at the front of a classroom anymore.
Mm.
Gaurav said the highest earning teacher on Unacademy makes 3 crore rupees a year.
That's wild. It shows the potential, right?
Yeah,
But it also makes you think, what skills do you need now to be a successful educator?
totally. It's not enough to just know your stuff anymore.
Right.
You have to be tech savvy, engaging, know how to connect digitally.
Mm.
Gaurav even said you got to find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
What you're passionate about, what you're good at, what the world needs and will pay for.
Which is good life advice in general. And with AI coming in, the role of the teacher is only going to get more interesting.
It's true. We didn't even get to unpack Roman's whole thing about AI tutors yet.
We're just scratching the surface.
But he seems really convinced that AI can personalize learning in a way that's never been possible, especially for students who can't afford tutors. It could be huge for accessibility.
Yeah.
It's like having a personal tutor in your pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even with AI, that whole motivation thing, especially online, that's still a challenge. Did you ever struggle with that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, procrastination, right?
Yeah.
It gets us all. But what's so cool about these AI tutors is like the personalization aspect. Algorithms that track your progress, figure out your strengths, weaknesses, even adapt to how you learn best.
It's wild. But part of me wonders, are we losing something with too much tech? That human connection, a real teacher, or even just studying with friends.
That's so important. And they both touched on that, actually. Like, the future isn't just high tech, it's got to be high touch, too.
Right.
Online learning opens doors, makes it accessible.
Yeah.
But those in-person moments, debating ideas, or even just like, let's grab samosas after studying, that's where it clicks.
Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn.
Right. Exactly. But even with all the EdTech potential, Gaurav and Roman brought up some growing pains, too. Exam scams, some companies with, like, iffy marketing.
Yeah, they mentioned Byju's specifically. and the need for more transparency.
Right. Transparency is key.
It's like with any new tech, there are going to be people who try to take advantage.
Exactly. But those bad actors, they don't represent the whole industry.
Right.
Plenty of EdTech companies like Unacademy are doing it right. They're all about ethics, accessibility, actually using tech to make education better.
For sure. And I think that's important for anyone who's maybe a little skeptical about this whole EdTech thing.
Yeah.
It's not about replacing traditional education. It's about adding to it, making it even better.
More choices, more flexibility, learning tailored to you. Who knows what's next, right?
Well, we tried to get them to spill the beans on any secret AI projects. There's always something coming up. Classic.
Teasing us.
I know. But they're not slowing down anytime soon.
I'm excited to see what they do next.
Me too. This deep dive has been eye-opening. Indian education is changing so fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are challenges, but the potential is huge.
Massive potential.
Before we wrap up, what advice from Gaurav and Roman really stuck with you for students navigating all this?
I love that they emphasized finding what you're passionate about. Like Gaurav's thing, the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs and will pay for.
Right?
That's huge.
Like career advice gold.
Totally. And that whole thing about deep learning over shortcuts, don't just memorize for a test,
Right.
Really understand it so you can use that knowledge in the real world.
It's like building those mental muscles for the long haul, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's so key in a world that's constantly changing,
Right.
It's not enough to be good at just one thing anymore. You got to be a lifelong learner, always adapting.
The only constant is change, right? But really, this whole conversation, it just shows the potential for tech to change education. Not just in India, but everywhere.
Huge potential.
Like imagine every student, no matter where they are, having access to amazing personalized learning. That's the future Gaurav and Roman are going for.
It's exciting.
Yeah. And it's not just tech for tech's sake, right?
No, not at all.
It's about empowering students and teachers to do their best.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good takeaway from this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
Education is changing rapidly, but at its heart, it's still about that human desire to learn, to grow.
Perfectly said. For anyone listening who might be feeling, I don't know, a little overwhelmed by all this AI future of learning stuff, I think Gaurav and Roman's own stories are really inspiring.
Definitely. They didn't take the traditional route.
Right.
They hit bumps in the road, but they stayed curious, right?
Right.
They were adaptable, passionate about making a difference.
Well, that's something we can all do, no matter what we choose to do, right? So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the message is, embrace the change, never stop exploring, and remember, your education, it's a journey, not just a destination.
Well said. And who knows, maybe someone listening right now will be the next Gaurav or Roman, changing the world of education in ways we can't even imagine.
Now, wouldn't that be something? That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious.